Hello, people. Welcome and thank you for tuning in our Battery Hubs channels, professional series, live chats, your weekly dose of transformative business ideas and solutions, where we bring you business leaders, industry experts, and game changers who are making the difference and impact in their respective industries locally and globally. So stay tuned and engage with us to learn these leaders got to and where they are today and discover their X factor. Now, I'm your host, Sakti, certified and qualified to bring you satisfaction and a whole lot of action with our guest speakers for the next 1 hour. Now, today, I'm really thrilled to bring on the Executive Director of the Singapore Malay Chamber, Commerce and Industry. We have Executive Director Azrulnizam Shah. Now, Azrul has spent about 13 years within the sports industry, holding coaching positions from coaching, sports science, lecturing, and management. His time in the field of sports has helped him on key skills in the areas such as strategic planning, budgeting, project management, sponsorship acquisitions, and operations. And since then, Azrul has pivoted into business world. Definitely a question that I gotta ask him. The reason for his change. But right now, he's holding a C-level position in the Malay Chamber of Commerce and the Apex Business Chamber for Malay Muslim businesses in Singapore. Now, in this role, Azrul oversees the key strategic initiative aimed at future-proofing businesses. His work involves the provision of platforms, pathways, and programs that will enable members of the chamber and their relevant stakeholders to strive in the current business environment. Now, he also collaborates with stakeholders from the people, the private and the public sectors, seeking opportunities for partnership to further fulfill the underlying mission of the chamber. Now, among all the notable achievements in his current appointment as an executive director, some of it would include, rebooting of the chamber's flagship business growth program for the young and aspiring business owners, the launch of the Kampong Glam Digital Transformation Office, the first of its kind for a chamber in Singapore. Now, his core duties is such as growth of the membership to a record high and the organization of an expensive range of programs locally, while bringing a record number of businesses from the chambers abroad to over 15 countries regionally in the past 2 years. Now, I've been talking a lot about Azrul, so let's get the man up here to share his journey. Hello, Azrul.
Hi, Sakti. How are you?
Well, I'm all good. And thank you so much for joining us today, Azrul.
Sure, my pleasure.
Yeah, and how's your day been?
Okay, it's a nice day to stay in, but I hope to go out soon and get some exercise. Yeah, but it's been weather has been quite rainy and cold, so not really super helpful for exercising. But it's okay. I'm enjoying it. Yep, slowly getting into the groove of things as phase 2, as we kick into phase 2 for the businesses. Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, one thing about the weather, one of my favorite weathers to go for my runs are actually rainy days. And recently, I don't know whether it's the circuit breaker effect. Nowadays when it rains, I try to just keep myself dry at home. One of the best reasons. It became a reason for me not to even go out. But I guess too comfortable at home. Nevertheless, Azrul, again, thanks a lot. I know you have a very busy schedule. A lot of things are going on. As you said, we have come into the phase 2 and your responsibilities and things going on for you, by the initiative through chambers. There's a lot of things going on. So thank you once again to be here. All right. So Azrul, about yourself, I got a lot of interesting questions to ask, especially even for myself. But while we'll begin, maybe Azrul, about yourself and your journey behind your current success.
Okay, so I think first of all, I think I would like to maybe qualify in terms of the current success. I guess I'm not too sure whether it can be called a success. I think that remains to be seen. But I would say that I've had a pretty interesting journey. So I'm 36 this year, and basically I started as you earlier mentioned, I started my journey in the world of sports. It's always been an area of interest of mine. And my first professional job was actually as a sports psychologist at the Singapore Sports Institute. Yeah, so I traveled to international competitions like the SEA Games, for example. I went to 2 SEA Games actually altogether. helping athletes get that mental edge and helping them to fine tune their mental processes as part of my job as a sports psychologist. So that has always been I've always had a fascination of over human performance. Like what aspects of human performance can be changed, especially when it comes to performing under pressure, for example. So that's where I started after I came back from my postgraduate studies. That was my first port of call. And from there, I then pivoted over to a national sports association, namely the Football Association of Singapore. And that's when I started to get a little bit of a taste of sports management, the other side of things, not so technical, but rather, how to administer, how to project manage, etc., etc. I then moved on to what was Home United Football Club. I became the CEO there. Well, what year was that? Yeah, at 30 years old, I was the CEO over at the Home United Football Club, which is a professional sports club, football club here in Singapore. And that's when things really ramped up in terms of my curve of learning, like what I had to learn in terms of managing the total size of the club, which was about 80 to 90 people, inclusive of the players, managing certain projects, managing infrastructure-related projects. Yeah, and by then, it had already been, as you correctly mentioned, about 13 years in one way or the other, because even before I started my professional time in sport, I had already been coaching, which we can touch on later, since about 2005, actually. Yeah, so I spent a considerable amount of time, and I felt that it was time to actually take a step away from sports and see where else I can go. Because my own perception may not be something that is shared by everybody. Was that I felt that when you're in a job or a career, let's say a career, I think it's always important to learn and to develop, right? So I felt that I had learned and developed enough at that point of my career, and I felt it was time to move on. And yeah, this opportunity came by with the Singapore Malay Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I was very uncertain. It was definitely a setting that I was not completely used to, right? But it's been a blessing ever since, I think. Yeah, and the change was, even though it seems like a very stark change, I always tell people that once you get to a certain level in terms of management and leadership, executive management and leadership, it's just a change of the landscape. But in terms of the skills that you get, in terms of project management, in terms of human management, resource management, in terms of projection and building networks, I think it's pretty much the same thing. But I must say that I've I've been given a lot of opportunities. I don't think that it remains to be seen whether I'm successful or not. I think it remains to be seen. But I would like to think that I've learned a lot in terms of the things that I've picked up at the chamber. And although it's really a different world, so-called from sports, but the skills have been transferred quite easily. And I do have to say, a lot of people have a lot of things to say about the sports industry and this and that. But I have to say that it's equipped me well. I cannot deny the fact that it's put me in a good position. The lessons that I've learned to bring it into business, which, as you know, today is a very, very critical, with all due respect to sports, is a very, very critical cog in our economy, especially when you look at the situation nowadays. Yep. So that has been my relative professional journey. Yep. So far. Yep. Here I am.
And I think you answered the very question that I wanted to ask you, which was, what was the reason, from sport industry, you decided to move over, to chambers, looking into businesses. So I think you definitely answered that. But the question is, when the people, it's definitely a big change. Though I think certain basics and principles doesn't change in terms of management and the way you lead. But your appointment as a CEO over at Home United, maybe I just want to go specific to that. What was your learning factors or things or experiences that you think you brought ahead or forward with you in Malay Chambers now that you are looking into initiative for businesses?
All right. So I think there's a few things. I think the first thing is about optimizing your resources, right? And this is something that actually I take back. I take one step back, even before Home United. When I was at Sport SG, I was privileged to be part of the secretariat who were chosen for Vision 2030. So my specific subcommittee was actually handling this theme called organized for success, organizing for success. And that thing has stuck with me throughout. One of the key things that I think people need to realize, or I realized quite early on, was that before you start anything, people are always very eager to hit the ground running, get to work immediately. You need to understand your landscape. You need to understand what resources you have at hand. You need to understand the level or the proficiency of those resources, and then you need to organize them. Yeah. So I thought that was one of the key things that I quickly picked up upon at HomeU, and it is something that I brought into SMCCI. But I think if I can share a little bit, like what I have learned at SMCCI is that besides organizing for success, I think, and besides recognizing the proficiency, you also need to have that level of understanding, that level of insight to realize that you cannot possibly have a perfect team, meaning that you cannot have everybody being very good at everything. You can't. So then it becomes a challenge of the ED or the CEO, anybody in a C-level position, to understand where they can place their resources so that they will really leverage upon their resources strength. Rather than, I think, what I learned in HomeU and then moving on to SMCCI was that you can't expect everybody to be at the same level, but rather than looking at the deficiencies, recognize where are everybody's strengths and then place them in the area that can really amplify their strengths. Yeah, so that was one of the things that I learned very quickly at HomeU, and I carried forward. And then the other thing, I think one very crucial thing was really the numbers. I think regardless of whether you're in a non-profit organization or whether you're in a business, or whether you are running something on a voluntary basis, I think maybe not numbers, know your data. Yes, data, because data could be numbers, could be other forms of data as well. It's so important to know the data, and I picked that up really fast because once you recognize the data, then you can start making changes or taking steps to either rectify, to ramp up, to decrease, what have you lah. Yeah, so those are the things that I think I picked up quite quickly at HomeU, and I think that's allowed me to, I guess, it's given me the necessary tools that I've then been able to, I think, further sharpen in my current role. Yeah.
All right. And Azrul, maybe another question, maybe a bit about your role currently as the executive director. Where do you specifically focus, especially in, today's context, where's your focus now?
Okay, sure. So I think as executive director, my role is to harness the full strength of my resources. So as I earlier spoke, firstly, organize them, make sure all the resources are in place to be able to fulfill their roles in an optimal way. And for me, it's not so much I do engage myself in some operational and day-to-day things. I think it's important, sometimes as a leader, you cannot be too disconnected and feel that you're above doing the day-to-day work. You need to have the humility to realize it. But what's more important is to guide your middle management, the leaders after you, and to build more leaders. That is my own personal focus as an executive director within SMCCI. Now, what's the overall focus of the chamber? I think currently, especially in the current climate, okay, it is about seeing how relevant a chamber can be in terms of bringing the businesses back to where they were, I guess, or maybe adjusting them to the new norm. Maybe it will never be where they were. Yeah. So we recognize that different businesses are now in different stages, right? Everybody's in the same storm, the COVID-19 outbreak storm, the pandemic storm, but not everybody's in the same boat. That's for sure, right? Yeah. So the chamber's role is to see which boats need a little bit more assistance and what resources we can allocate to them, which boats need a different type of assistance, which boats need less assistance, or can help other boats, in fact, to go with them. Yeah. So our role is really understanding the landscape. We work very closely with our SME center to be able to give the necessary assistance to the businesses. And then we reach out to them and see what we can do I think the priority now is that I think most businesses have already stopped their free fall, and if they haven't stopped, then they're probably, respectfully speaking, they might have to exit the industry at this point of time. So most the businesses that are still here now, they're trying to stabilize. So we need to be there with them to help them stabilize, give them access to whatever resources they need to stabilize. Some businesses have stabilized and are now transforming. So we need to give them access to ways to transform so that they can continue. And yeah, but in this current climate, things are unpredictable because it's not just an economic downturn. And economic downturn is easier to manage. This is something that has technically nothing to do with business per se, but has had such a big effect on the economy. So it's a tricky time. I don't think any executive director has ever sat through this time, has ever had to sit through 4 budgets. But for me, it's an amazing learning opportunity and an amazing opportunity for the chamber to show its relevance and really go out there and extend our assistance to the members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely, I would agree. It is definitely a challenging time where, as an executive director, it is something that you don't get out of a norm. It's like, you have you can call it as an opportunity to really go out there to make the difference. But of course, it's a challenging opportunity, I will say, definitely. And before we move on, I would like to just say hi to Nadia. Thank you, Nadia, for, giving us and joining us for today's session. And really appreciate it. I'd like to also urge, for all of you guys out there who are with us for this video, thank you so much. And feel free to join us and also engage Azrul with any specific questions you have. I think the whole idea is, feel free to engage and ask questions so that, we can get the most from Azrul. And we have Iskandar. Thank you, Iskandar, for joining us. And Azrul, compliment from Iskandar. You're looking good today. So that's great. And also, hi, Jackie. And thank you, Jackie, for joining us today as well. Thank you so much. So as I said, guys, do feel free to engage us. All right. And we will just move on. So Azrul, we were talking about your transition, but again, looking at it, coming into SMCCI, taking on the role of an executive director, I think that's the positional part of it. But actually, there must be some level of inspiration. What inspired you, to do what you are doing now? I'm sure your industry or the industry that you earn, the sports industry is really a challenging one. And now that you're talking about, engaging business owners and lead the way or come up with initiatives for transformation is definitely another challenge by itself. But what was the inspiration for you to take on that challenge?
I think if I start at a very, very base level, I think my parents are a big influence on me, I would say. My mom, who's a very, very hard worker, never says no to helping people. And I kind of got influenced by her in terms of my desire to always want to try and help people. So previously help is people in sports, and now help people in business, for example. So that's one of I think key inspirations for me lah. And I guess as I made my way through my journey, my career journey, I think you'd agree with me on this as well. I think people don't credit this enough, but actually it's very important to have some form of mentoring or role models. And it's not something that you have to do formally. Like, you don't have to call somebody a mentor or for them to be a mentor. Like, you don't have to sign up for a package to be mentored or whatsoever. But I think it's important to find role models, and I felt that especially when I was at HomeU, I was very privileged to be led by some capable individuals who, most importantly, had a vision and was able to realize it. And that was a really big inspiration to me, because I realized that ideas can be cheap, and they are cheap actually. What's important is execution, and that was a big driving force for me. Like, don't just talk about it lah, do something lah, about it. So I think that was something that was very key. And now that I'm in SMCCI, the leadership of SMCCI as well, there are good role models there to learn from. and to actually drive me every day lah. And it provides good validation for me to carry on my work. I think the other thing is, growing up as a minority as part of a minority. You always have this. I think Singapore is already a underdog country, right? But in a certain way, being part of a minority also creates that you can take it both ways, lah. You can use it as a crutch, or you can use it as a fuel to say that, hey, you know what? I want to show that I can punch above my weight, right? So that's the same spirit that I've always been carrying on, whether in sports, and then now, especially in the Malay chambers, because we don't only carry a responsibility over businesses, specifically, especially for ethnic chambers overall, we also have a responsibility to our society, to the community, to the Malay Muslim community. We also have a responsibility, and we have a responsibility that is bigger than just the business. We have a responsibility to build businesses so that they can build role models, so that they can inspire younger people from our community to do better. And this underdog spirit in me, or that desire to, really punch above my weight, show that I can do better, is something that drives me very strongly. So I always try and push the envelope and show that, hey, you know what? Even though we are a small chamber, we don't have that many businesses, we can do things. We can dream and then execute it. Yeah. So these are some of the things that some of the thought processes that really inspire me on a daily basis. Yeah. And yeah, so that's where I am today, lah. Yeah.
I mean that's great. I always felt that anybody who takes on a challenging role, um, definitely apart from the fact that there's an opportunity, being in a position. I think there's always this factor of inspiration behind them. That there's this level of why or a purpose why, and that's the only reason why I wanted to know what was your key inspiration, and I got that. And I also agree that having a mentor is very important. When I was in the army, they used to tell me that if you want to fly like the eagles, move around with the eagle, talk to the eagle, and get to know how they what they are doing out there. And I think this is something that is important. And yes, even on my own personal note, I have noticed that within the Malay chambers, where when there are a lot of opportunities, when I talk to other business owners, get inspired by them. I mean, there are two parts of it. One of it is, of course, get inspired from what they are doing, and the other one is also learn from the failures and the mistakes they have done, so that we can learn from them. So there's two ways. Either way, there is certain level of learning. Yeah. So we have a question here, Azrul, from Iskandar. Yeah, that is fast. All right. So the question. Thanks, Iskandar, for the question. Now, Azrul, how has your experience and leadership role in sports to bring out the best in your players? Help you in your current role as a ED in the chamber?
Okay. So, well, I guess it's also opportune time, lah. I guess maybe this one Sati can talk a little bit more, but yeah, I do some coaching. Actually, that's the longest involvement that I've had in sports. I can probably touch on that later, but at the end of the day, players are assets, right? And in my current role as executive director, sometimes I do look at my team as a team of players, each of them fulfilling a different role, right? Each of them bringing different things to the table, and it's up to me, right, to see what I can do to, I guess, arrange them in the best formation that I can to be able to optimize their delivery, right? And I mean, in sports, it's to score a goal. For us, it's to ensure that we keep building a pipeline of businesses within the community, right? Yeah. Especially in this crisis, we have to keep up our work, right? We have to make sure that our output is consistently there. So sometimes I do take, lessons from these, from whatever I learn in sports, in the way I manage my team. On the other side, how we manage our stakeholders, right, is that at the end of the day, the stakeholders want to feel involved. In the same way, like, let's say sports fans, right? Like, so for example, when I was at Home United, we needed to find a way to build our fan base, right? Which is very challenging in Singapore. Very challenging, So we needed to find many ways that we can engage, because different fans engage differently. Some fans like to go and see only the players. Some fans like it because their kids get to be there. So it's the same way. when it's as executive director at SMCCI, how do we engage our fans, which are in this case our businesses? What things do we put in place? What platforms do we put in place? What pathways, what programs do we put in place such that our businesses will feel engaged? And we have to be humble enough to realize that not everything will succeed. Some things will be a hit with 10 businesses, but maybe a miss with 90 businesses. Do we still do it? Well, we have to evaluate if there is significant value in it, then you do it. Because you see that you can really push the envelope far enough. So we have to find a variety of things that we can do to engage our businesses with the sole, objective of ensuring that we have as many businesses as possible to be able to, add momentum and sustain the growth in the economy. So yeah, I'm not sure if I answered that question totally. I don't think I have 100%, but yeah, that's what's going on in my mind sometimes.
Yeah. Thanks, Azrul. And Iskandar is what Azrul has said. I hope he had answered that question. But no worries. If you still have questions, you can carry on engaging us. And yeah, Azrul, concurrently, this next question came about, I think from someone very familiar, from Nadia. All right. Hi, boss. So as you can see with the term boss, I believe that she'll be part of your team. And so how do you leverage on our team weaknesses and strengths, to totally different from how you manage your soccer team? I'm sure, how do you plan out smoothly so we can all execute the best we can?
Well, actually, it is not totally different than how you manage a sports team. Because, Sakti, I know you have a rich background in football, back in your own personal background. So you know that in a game, right, you're going to have 11 players, 7 subs, for example. Not everybody is going to be good at something. Right? The guy who is best with his hands is going to be the goalkeeper. The fastest players are going to be on the wings. The guy who can shoot the best is going to be the striker. So the same way is that we have to recognize, Nadia, I think my job as executive director is to use my experience to recognize where everybody's strengths and weaknesses are. And then how do we leverage it for the best of our chamber, for the best of our members? So at the end of the day, there are bound to be weaknesses in people, but there are also strengths, right? So in a leadership position, you have to firstly accept that you cannot have a perfect team. People always say you can pay for top talent, but sorry, even top talent has weakness. You can have the best coder in the world, but he will not be the person that you want to take a press conference. He will not be good at doing Markov's work, for example. So place him in coding, right? So in the same way, when I look at my team, right, I have to understand where the weaknesses and strengths, and more importantly, I have to have the openness and acceptance that, hey, you know what, this person will be good at A, may not be so good at B. So instead of focusing on what the B that is not good at, what can I do to amplify his strengths in A or her strengths in A, such that it almost nullifies the weaknesses in B. And can another person whose strengths are in A assist in further nullifying it or covering that strength, that weakness, because it is their strength. So I think you have to also understand the assets and resources that you have at hand. And I think since I'm talking beyond just sports or whatsoever, I think this goes out to all the CEs or people in C-level positions out there. I could be corrected. I can stand corrected on this, but I think one of the most important things to really understand the assets that you have. And that is not only the human assets. You have to understand your physical assets, for example, the software that you have at hand, what you can do. But what I can say was that one of the first things that I did before I started my work officially at SMCCI was that I spent almost 2 months actually understudying the situation. So without being employed, I was going down, understanding how it worked. I spoke to every single staff member personally to understand where they were at with their head, what was their ambitions. And I think that helped me a lot. Can I be better? That's for sure. But I would say that helped me a lot because it allowed me to understand. So if I can round up this thing, it's all about understanding everybody's strengths and weaknesses, and being able to be open enough to realize that people have weaknesses, and at the end of the day, find a way to place them in a way that optimizes their strengths rather than highlights their weaknesses. But of course, it's always a work in progress. There will always be curveballs thrown. There may be unexpected things coming your way. So just pivot and adjust. I think nobody's perfect, and we are always learning, lah. So yeah, these are some things that I have, lah.
Yeah. Thanks, Azrul, and thanks, Nadia, for engaging Azrul. And just to add on something that Azrul you said, yes, I do agree, because I don't know whether it's the system that we grew up in, where we always focus on our weaknesses and how can we improve on our weaknesses, that sometimes we forget to look into the strength that we have. And back in my days, whether it's sports or even in military, they used to say, when you work on your weaknesses, you will come to a level of competence. But when you work on your strength, you can go to the level of excellence. So never ever. So you hit the nail by saying that in any leadership role, it's about looking at the strength and weaknesses and getting the people to do the right person for the job, and harness on the strength. So yeah, I think that was one of the key lessons. Even I myself personally feel till today, I make it a point to make sure that that's being done.
Yeah,
right.
I think one of the key ethos I always live by, and that I always repeat to my middle management guys, is that people don't care how much you know until you know how much you care. So it's easy to carry yourself in an inflated manner, thinking that you know everything, which could be true, but you may not be able to do everything. So we need everybody to be able to work with us together. Yeah, and that's a big part of the way that I conduct myself. And I do have to say that, when you are involved in sports, like, it's the rawest form of it. It's a very raw form of human dynamics. It's a very raw and direct and explicit form of human dynamics. And if you are able to take that, then you are able to then go into the boardroom and really go into your offices and master and take the lessons that you learn from sports. I'm not saying that sports is the only way, but I'm saying that it really is like, in sports, you lose means you lose. You win means it's very clear right there, and you learn a lot of things about a lot of people. You learn how to understand people, how to understand the room, and then if you know how to harness that, you can really make it very effective when you bring it to other platforms. So, like, for myself, I hope that once I walk away, then people will realize that, hey, actually, people in sports can go out of sports and do well. They don't have to pigeonhole themselves and stay in the sporting industry all the way. Yeah.
And interestingly, just my thoughts, Azrul, even if you talk about businesses, right, it applies, when you're talking about especially partnerships. You realize that when you have a business with, I'm sure you have seen enough, or experienced enough businesses where even the partners themselves, they have their own set of weaknesses and strengths, and somehow or other, when they understand that very well, they're able to complement and really work well together. It becomes a very strong chemistry. Now, I'm one classic example. I work with my partner Iskandar, and I know what are my strengths, and I know what are my weaknesses, and I know his strengths. So somehow or other, we managed to find out, and we were very open about it, and we started, I will say, looking into avenues where we can leverage on each other.
Sure.
I think that applies, both in businesses and even when we are managing our teams and everything, where, how can we help them to somehow or other try to complement each other with their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
So I think that is just a personal experience that I myself had. And Azrul, what do you think, for the current, not only the current situation, but, what's the right mindset do you think business owners need to achieve in order to achieve their, aspirations, their business goals, and so on? Any specific mindset that you have seen among these business owners?
Okay. If I can round it up all in one word. Okay, I know this word has been thrown around a lot, but I'm not sure whether most people really understand having a growth mindset. It's the most important. Regardless of what this situation is. In fact, in this situation, you don't have a growth mindset. You are going to be. It's not going to be easy for you, because you really need to transform certain ways in the way you do things. But I think the challenge is that when you are successful, you still have that growth mindset, because we have seen today and the world today, how like multi-billion dollar 20, 30-year businesses are gone just overnight. One example is Hertz, right? The car rental company. Everybody knows Hertz because whenever you travel overseas, that's one of the first companies that you look for when you want to rent cars, right? So it's international, spanning the whole world. Millions of dollars in assets, probably billions in transactions, and just like that, you are gone, right? And best part is that they were not disrupted by a competitor, but they were disrupted by something that came out of nowhere. So I think, I'm not saying that Hertz doesn't have a growth mindset. That's not for me to say. But one thing that I've noticed is that business owners who are successful are those who have a growth mindset, which means that they are able to really always want to find a way to move out of their comfort zone so as to grow their business in one way or the other. And when they are faced with difficulty, rather than asking why me, they use it as an opportunity and a challenge for them to grow. So I think having that growth mindset is really very crucial, because if you, regardless of whether it's in this day and age, if you don't want to, if you don't have that desire to want to grow or to want to change your business model or what have you, then you're going to be left behind, because people can grow really fast nowadays with technology and all that. So I think having that growth mindset is very, very crucial for business owners if they want to achieve their aspirations.
Yeah, and especially I think today's context, the ability and the ability to take the risk to do things out of the normal, traditional, or conventional way is important. I think this is what I've seen in a lot of businesses where I think they started to really look into the opportunities that were available amidst all these challenges. And I think that is where, like what you said, growth mindset is one of the key. It is common sense. A lot of people know, but whether it's common practice is always a question.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely something. And what about cross pollination, Azrul? What do you think? Is this a good time where we can look out for potential collaborations within companies coming together? Do you think that's something very important or essential for business owners in today's context?
Yeah, I think that is definitely very important. In fact, I think prior to this whole thing, I think it's equally important. So I think people always think that it's too troublesome, or rather they may get too comfortable in their own domain, so they feel like there's no need, because they feel that like if I share my trade with another business owner, then if they be able to compete with me or what have you. But I think I've read somewhere before that I think one of the key things that you can do, or the first people that you should look at in terms of cross-pollination, is actually your competitor, right? Because then at least you all don't compete amongst each other, and you'll find a way to move forward and grow the industry together. You see? So we feel that this is actually something that's very, very important. I think even at the chamber, we have plenty of opportunities for our business owners to work with each other, whether they are in the same industry, or whether they're cross industry. So, for example, the businesses who are in the renovation cluster, I think they're working very well with each other, relying on each other for contacts, for resources to bring down the economies of scale. And then we have other businesses who are in traditional fields like retail and F&B, who are then cross-pollinating or collaborating with businesses in the IT space. Yeah. So I think that, and especially in this time and age, you need to have a digital front, and you can't hire, you may not have the resource, I think, to hire your own CTO for the moment, right? So what you do is, look at a business, all right, and see whether they'll be able to assist you in your digital requirements or in transforming yourself digitally. I think that's very important. But again, right, it comes back, do you have a growth mindset in the first place? Because if you don't have a growth mindset, you will see this as, I don't want to share my secrets with this and that. Your mindset is one of protectionism, not looking inwards, as compared to someone who's ready to look outwards and see how they can grow further. I think that has to be the way forward.
Yeah, and so for those businesses, of course, let's say I put myself as a business owner. Of course, when I say collaborations, is to to move around, to look at potential businesses I can work with, to learn from, and so on. So another option is, of course, I can actually approach Malay chambers to see what are the events or activities that's going on that companies can actually, or business owners can actually come and join in as well, right?
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. Yeah, I think the chamber, our main role is actually to act as a connector, right? So we do have programs in place and all that, and we do provide opportunities for companies to benefit from, like, for example, Project Kita, etc., etc. But one thing that I think most people don't optimize when being a member of a chamber is network with other businesses. That's that's the actual function of a chamber actually. It's like, okay, I want to approach this, I want to find a company in B, right? Instead of going on Yellow Pages and trying to find and then cold calling, right? Work through the chambers and ask them, by the way, Azrul, you got this company doing this, I'm looking for a company doing this. We'll get you connected and then off you go. It's a partnership. You see? So I think that people, or rather members of chambers overall, are not just SMCCI, must understand how to optimize and leverage on the chamber in a better way, lah.
And it's going back to our initial discussion where how you best make use of the available resources, and if chambers have the resources and the assets to help the members, then why not? I think it's about there's always this saying, ask and you'll be given. It's only provided when you decide to ask, right?
To ask first, of course.
Yeah. And so, Azrul, what about the current challenges? I mean, everybody is talking about COVID-19 situation, and right now, the key topic is about the new normal. So first of all, let's talk about, what are the biggest challenge you think businesses were actually facing at the initial start of the situation, before circuit breaker? And, maybe we will just focus on that and then follow by, the way ahead.
Yeah, I think that, obviously one of the biggest challenges that businesses faced was definitely okay, so for example, right, in previous years, when the economy was really bad, we went to negative growth, etc., during the Asian financial crisis, and before that, the challenge was something that people understand is part and parcel of the business cycle, right? Things go up, whatever goes up is going to come down, whatever goes down is going to come up, right? Yeah. But I think for the first time in this COVID-19 situation, right, things became really uncertain because it's fluid, you see. So for example, in the past, if my business is going down, right, and then I don't have that many customers, fine, let me just lower my price up, provide some vouchers, provide some offers, people are going to come back, which will work. But in this COVID-19 situation, you have a circumstance which is overarching. It doesn't care how big your business is, it doesn't care what type of business you are going to be affected. So if you have less business, it's not so simply solved as I lower my prices, because then there are other questions like, can I open or not in the first place? This is something that businesses have never been faced with. I actually cannot open my business. You see, so all this, and it's so fluid, right? I think now we are beginning to get reports of certain countries who have opened up. Now they need to close back again. Well, at least take some stricter measures because it's disrupted again. So there's a lot of uncertainty on the ground, and it's very sudden, right? As if you remember, when circuit breaker was announced, it was, and when certain measures were announced, it was very, very rapid. So let me give you an example, right? So one of the most affected industries within the Malay Chamber is the wedding events industry. So once this was announced, the business owners were very good. They immediately formed a task force. They decided to, okay, let's work on an SOP, to restrict number of people, to do this, to do that, temperature taking, etc., etc. Before they could even put that out, and they did this really fast in the space of about 48 hours. I remember it was a Saturday afternoon. Before they were even ready, before they were able to put the SOP out, right, the new direction came in and said, hey, no more gatherings. So businesses aren't able to adapt to that because this is something that is new and is uncertain. So not only are the changes rapid, but the changes are also very, how I put it, unexpected in that sense. You see? So these are some of the challenges that businesses face, right? A situation that they really, really cannot control, right? So even, for example, the tourism industry right now, right? Even as things in Singapore get better, which I certainly hope it would, as a business in the tourism industry, I cannot it's not up to me, right? Because I can say, okay, I'm going to roll out offers, dirt cheap offers, $100, $200 to go into Singapore, or $200 to go out of Singapore. But it doesn't depend on Singapore alone. Singapore can be zero cases, just like New Zealand is, right? For example. But if other countries are still in trouble, your business is still affected, right? So so these are the things that I think businesses are finding difficulty coping with, right? So that's the first part of the question. So the way ahead for the new normal, I think it's all about transforming and adaptation, right? I think, like I said, right, so we are all in the same storm now. Yes, we are in different boats. Some boats that are bigger, some boats that are smaller. But having a bigger boat may not necessarily be the best thing, because when you have a bigger boat, it's harder for you to maneuver, right? You may survive the storm, but you may not be the same way when you reach land, this new land that we are heading towards, right? So the thing is that I think every business owner has to understand that they have to transform and adapt now. They have to humble themselves to realize that, hey, you know what? Yes, my business has run for 50 years, 70 years, how many years, how many generations? But if the circumstances cannot favor you to move in your current direction, then my strongest advice would be to look strongly at your business model and find a way to adapt out of it. Rather than just force your way down the same model and hopefully things will turn out. It cannot be just, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna do, don't worry things will go back to normal. What is the normal anyway? So I'd like to share an anecdote. I'm not entirely sure whether it's appropriate, but it's okay on Bettery Hub channel, I'll just do it. So I saw this news piece yesterday. So it was in the US. So it was actually a strip club, believe it or not. I hope you don't mind me sharing this. So the owner said, when this whole COVID-19 thing came, I had to close down because I was non-essential. So what did I do? I decided to serve F&B. And then I created a drive-through, and I used my workers to deliver the food to the cars who are driving through. So they themselves become essential workers because they are serving F&B. And while the cars are driving through, they get some form of entertainment, right? Entertainment, as you can tell. And this is the actual story, So rather than I didn't take so much. I wasn't about passing judgment over the industry they was in, but it was about, look, this guy is in this thing which in any day it would actually shut down because it's not essential. He has decided that I'm gonna find a way because I need to keep people in the job. And what is the way? Okay, find a way to be essential, right? And that's the thing, right? So currently, when we look at things, right, instead of being like, when is this thing going to be lifted? Can you appeal for this to be lifted? I think all of us as business owners should already take steps to try and transform ourselves. Either move to a digital page, find a way to become essential. There are definitely many opportunities out there, but it starts with a growth mindset and being humble enough to realize that, hey, you know what? I think I've got to make this change. Not, how long more? Because it's uncertain, right? The government has not and will not give any promise to say that, after this time, phase 2 will be lifted or whatever, right? There's still a long road ahead. It may never be the same again, right? So, if, for example, the Singaporean government, who are famously well planned, years ahead, if you look at the URA master plan, it's 20-30 years ahead of your time, of our time. They can say, you know what, T5, what we've been gearing up for, T5, Terminal 5, stop. We got to find a new way around this. Then who are we as business owners running maybe six-figure projects, and seven-figure projects, maybe most of the time 5-figure, 4-figure projects? Who are we not to want to transform or have a rethink of the things that we are doing? So I hope that answers your question somewhat, but
it's very in line because I think, in fact, in our previous chats, I was talking to a couple of invited guests as well. They were saying that this is especially during the initial period of circuit breaker. As much as business owners were worried about what's going to happen next, but I think the first key thing that even was suggested is that instead of thinking about waiting for the time to be back to normal, it's about time to really think, how much am I willing to change, to look at new ways and angles. And this is the best time for me to try it out. Of course, there's no such thing as a guaranteed success. But the whole idea is do it, have a feel of how the market reacts, or how's the response from the market, and then from there you move ahead. And I think these things has to be done, which is part of the growth mindset.
Yeah.
I
I,
think this
I
is,
think like what we are doing right now is a perfect example of it. This thing, like, even yourself, right? So you've transformed from being a person who typically would do in-person talks and in rooms and with audiences and talking one-to-one, and now you're a pro at doing podcasts lah. Something that all of us wasn't really uh, weren't really open towards doing at the start, because we always felt that this way works best for us. But then
yeah,
this is something that we can think about. So, for example, Malay Chamber, like so like in the past, as you know, like Chambers is a lot about in-person events and all that sort of thing. So when we started switching digitally, what I noticed was that first, the amount of resources that we deployed was less. You don't have to book a function room, but our reach was amplified by so much,
yeah,
by, like, we were reaching thousands of people per podcast like this, per
yeah,
webcast like this, which we will never be able to reach if we had stuck to rooms. Never, people. It costs so much money and marketing to reach 1,000 people, even 1,000 people, even 100 people for that matter. And yet now we're able to amplify our reach by so much. But are we humble enough to realize that this is the new norm? We must accept it, rather than when all this around, then we go back to what was before, and we have the same problem. So everybody is looking to adjust. We should do the same.
yeah. And I think it's about experimenting or exploring. Like, for example, you are right. The older mode of learning is when you invite business owners or experts to come down in a forum to be seated, and then from there you ask them questions like, what is your resources, like, you have to book a room, a conducive room for and then you have to get the people down physically. And so when it became online, not only do they or are they able to we can have a bigger reach, but even if those people who are not able to make it at that point of time, they always have an possibility, or they have a chance to see it again. So it becomes the case that the information or the knowledge that has been captured is there. It's there for you to, and I think this was somehow or other discovered, and that's why when just to share why, like what you said, Azrul, from face to face engagements, I decided to do a live chat and podcast. Was, of course, I knew that I can't sit down here wait for things to happen, and I can maybe wait for somebody else within the industry to start doing something so I can take a lead from them, or I can start doing something and trigger others to say, hey, maybe this could be a way, and just keep moving, be ahead of the curve. So it's
Yep.
it is again, trial and error, and never knew, I will be able to, call yourself and many other industry experts. And I was surprised that many of the experts out there, business, they were more than willing to come out to share. And it was not about being out in the limelight. It's not about being online, but it is really about sharing. And I think that
Yep.
that was the best climate where people were willing to make a difference for others and to come
Yep.
forward. And I thought that was an opportunity to learn at the same time, to share to other business owners. So I guess in every challenge there is an opportunity. It's whether you are able to go in there and take a look at it. So
Exactly.
and coming to the next part, Azrul, this is the time that we talk about traditional, right? The importance of for business owners right now to unlearn and relearn, to adapt and transform. Like what we say, don't just stick to your old traditional and conventional ways of doing business. And I believe, earlier when I was sharing, I think SMCCI, you actually had been actually initiating even on the Kampong Glam digital transformation initiatives. So I think these are things that right now is the best time for business owners to even go in there to experiment and find out more about these things, to get out their comfort zone. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I think there's no better time, because definitely now whoever is willing to move fast, willing to be agile enough for benefit. Because with the crisis, I think everybody has basically come back to the same starting point lah. Some of us are going to move faster, some of us are going to move slower, some of us are going to be stronger, some of us are going to be a bit weaker, but everybody's at the same starting point. So the faster business owners are able to unlearn maybe their habits which are no longer relevant, and relearn certain things, right? The faster they can move forward, And I think also it's important. I want to highlight something here, which I hope that especially if there are any members or what have you, or business owners listening. Singapore is one, if not the country, where it's easy to do. Not only is it easy to do business in terms of setting up the business, but the government gives so much support, so much support. And you have to take my word on this because I've been to the sports industry. I spent a good part of my life, my relatively short life, 1/3 of my life in the industry already. And the difference in terms of the support for businesses versus something for like industries like sports, for example, is night and day. Sati, it's night and day. But what we are not seeing now is that we're not seeing enough businesses taking the trouble to learn about how they can leverage on the available government support. It always seems so high, so so disconnected. And to a certain extent, I would agree that maybe sometimes certain things need to be a bit more watered down, a bit more layman. But that's where the SME center comes in. You see, so I think members really need to, or rather businesses really need to find a way to navigate their way through all these available grants and support programs so that they can then, instead of adapting and transforming on your own, if the government is willing to support your adaptation and transformation, please go for it. Please go for it. But again, you need to take the trouble as a business owner to be humble enough to, you know what, I'm just going to take one day out of my busy days to sit down with someone, maybe people from Bettery Hub, Bettery Lab, sit down from the SME center, sit down from people in the same business to see, okay, this is where my business is at. I need to take stock, and these are the resources available that can help me. So I really feel that business owners in Singapore don't understand or don't appreciate maybe they are not taking enough time to understand the support that is available. I do agree that sometimes it can be a bit inaccessible or it can be a bit disconnected. That one I do empathize with the business owners, but that's where you should leverage upon the chambers, the SME center, or other available resources like Bettery Lab, for example, to be able to really understand how you can leverage on this. So this is something that I hope business owners can take, because like with the amount of support that there is available, there's something for everyone out there. It doesn't matter, are you as a business owner bothered enough to go and learn about these things and really leverage on them.
Yep. And I it's heartwarming, that we came up to this topic, because I think right now the biggest well, I wouldn't call it sin, but the biggest mistake any business owner would do is not tapping on the available resources that is already there. And now, that's why, as what Azrul say, you can actually approach SMCCI, SME Center, and even, us in Bettery Lab, or many other guys who are qualified. Approach and find out, get the information, and then from there decide what's the way ahead. I think the key thing to make any informed decision is to get the correct information or credible information out first. So thanks, Azrul, on this part. And Azrul, now back to you again. Now that we talk about businesses, we talk about, now I'm a strong believer, and I believe you too, as being in the sports industry, the failures are our best teachers. It teaches us one of the most important lessons that stick to us. So any specific failures that you think that has been close to your heart, that it's always triggered you to learn something,
Oh, where do I start? I mean, I think like you are right. Failures are the best teachers. But I think, like for me, I would reframe that a little bit, in the sense that you are right. Remember, very early on in this conversation, you said that our society is always about passing or failing, succeeding or failing, right? But I think that if you have the right mindset, you'll be able to recognize that it's not so much failing, but it's an opportunity to learn, right? So like they say victory isn't final, but failure is also not fatal as well. Like most of the time, But and I think that this is something. So for me, well, I wouldn't. There isn't something that I would say that I've been blessed, in the sense that I've not had some incident of like such a big failure that I'm unable to shake out of it. Like I've not like gone bankrupt or what have you. none of these really acute failures that has really impacted my life. So I'm lucky in that sense. But on a micro scale, every day I fail. Every day there are things that I don't do so well in. There are certain goals that I want to reach but I don't reach. So like I take these opportunities to actually find a way to learn. Like I try not to. When I was younger, I remember especially when I was young, like secondary school and all that, it really felt like failure was fatal because it's like failure was so closely associated with your standing in in wherever among your peers and all that. But I think nowadays my perspective has changed. I feel that if I don't fail, then it's either I'm really good, which I don't think I am, or I'm not doing something correctly. I'm not exposing myself to enough risk. So there are a lot of small failures lah. But you must be willing to actually get yourself in a situation like there is this when adopting a growth mindset, you have to find that space where you are uncomfortable enough to be able to grow, but not so uncomfortable like it's setting yourself up for complete failure. You just have to find that level of, like when you run, like you got to run at a pace where you're not totally relaxed, but you also cannot run at a pace where you know you're going to burn out in 1 minute. You just have to find that. Every time you hit that zone, you got your strength, your running is going to improve. So the same way lah. So maybe if I can give an example, right? Like over the past, maybe last week, right? Last Friday, we had our first ever digital annual journal meeting, right? So if you all remember, that was the day that the circuit breaker was officially lifted and phase 2 started lah. No, sorry, not circuit breaker officially lifted. Sorry, phase 2 officially started. Phase 1 ended, phase 2 started. So actually, if you wanted to, we could have actually met, like at least the control group would have met, and then made it easier lah. At least you're all around the table and we can coordinate, But I decided to take the decision that, hey, you know what? Let's just do it digitally. Since you've already tried it, and since you've already been working towards it, and we didn't expect phase 2 to happen on Friday itself, let's just stick to it. Don't change the plan. Let's just stick to it. Obviously there were some concerns lah, like, hey, what happens if you cannot pass the information here and there, blah blah, and definitely there were some small failures, technical failures, for example, throughout the EGM and all that. But what we got out from it is the overall confidence that actually can do. Actually, we can do this thing online. It's not that we want to do it. I'm not telling everybody that we will do it. But if you wanted to do it, we can do it. And we learn from all those small little technical failures that we had and say, okay, in the future, this is how we avoid it. This is what we should do, this is what we should do. So, yeah, I mean, that's a simple example lah. So I really do agree. I think you shouldn't aim to fail, but failure isn't final, failure isn't fatal, and use it always as an opportunity to learn and grow lah. That's something that I am still trying to learn, because I always tell people, hey, I don't like to lose, and I personally don't like to lose. I'm a very competitive person, but when I look back at my own sporting career, for example, as a coach, I've lost as many times as I've won. And in fact, to be the likelihood of winning a championship is typically much less than failing. So you're more likely to fail than to win, right? So if you're more likely to fail than to win, then you need to be able to do something with it. But then it cannot be your whole life you think you're a loser, yeah. So you need to be able to take all these lessons on board to move forward. So that's something that I've been privileged to learn every day.
In fact, talking about sports itself,
Yes.
I've also even came to realize from my own personal experience. I used to play hockey for clubs. I used to play soccer for the police cup, intercon, and everything. Of course, becoming a regular in the army, that's it. I got to just pack all my boots and say, that's it. You're going to serve army, and there's no other additional extracurricular activities, in terms of playing for anyone. But I think during this time, what I realized is that every time there's a loss, every time there's a missed chance of scoring that winner, or the winning goal, or some kind of a failure, I like that it becomes a factor. Again, a bit on the sportsmanship and growth mindset, where it becomes a fuel for me to do it better the next time.
Definitely.
It's like, why didn't I do this and what I should have done, and that becomes a lesson so strong that sometimes the same mistakes will never be repeated, and you it tend to push us to the next level to say, I want to bring myself to the next level. I've learned it, and I move on. I think so. Again, it is the perspective of how we see failures. Your view of failures, like what you say. If you see it as an also, I mean, you don't embark onto any task to say that it's okay to fail. Definitely, that's definitely starting on the wrong foot itself. But to say that if it happens, you have done everything possible, and if it, I won't say it's a failure, but it fails, then fine. So what's the next move I can do to get it, or don't repeat the same thing again and get it to be done better? I think
Yeah, I think maybe to add on two more things, right? I think one, like you said, you don't go into something aiming to fail, but you can go into something aiming to succeed, aiming to win, even though you may think that it's tough, right? So the thing is that sometimes we as humans, our ego can be a bit fragile, lah. As you know, right? My background is in psychology, so you don't want to aim to win because right, like there's an 80% chance. Let's say there are 10 teams and only one team wins. So that there's a 90% chance you won't. So you say, you know what? Never mind lah. Third or fourth place is okay, right? Because there's a bigger chance of you hitting that. But I think for me, to have that mindset that you're always aiming to really do the best that you can and hopefully end up on top, right? It's actually quite important, But you mustn't be scared if you fail. The problem is that most people don't like to set those goals because they feel that if I set those goals, then it will affect me when I don't get it, which is true. But if you learn how to reframe failure, then it's okay. I think that's fine. And I think secondly, my second point is that don't spend, even though failure is a good teacher, don't spend too much time on it. Once it has happened, as soon as you can, get over it, find a solution. Always move forward with the solution. I think that's something that I've learned to do a lot, okay lah. I think all this takes time. It's not something that it takes a certain amount of experience going through failing to realize that, hey, you know what, there's no point, thinking about how much. Just focus on what is the next possible thing. So, for example, in business, if you're doing something, doesn't mean that it's going to succeed. Like every business owner, obviously, when they start initiative or they start a business, they think that it is going to succeed. No business owner will start a business and then aiming for it to fail. But if something's happened along the way, as soon as you can, move away from the negative feelings and find a way to learn and move forward from that. Find a way to, okay, what's next? What can I do next? Okay, thank you very much. I learned. What do I do next? What is next? Very, very crucial. What is the solution that is in place? Then it can be a good teacher. Yeah. So that's
and now that we are coming here, there's a quote, from Bettery Lab itself. Myself, when we met up with you, there was this famous quote from Azrulnizam. I don't fail, I just run out of time. I remember you quoting this. And we felt, after our conversation, our meetup that day, we felt that's really a powerful belief, looking at it as this way, I just run out of time. I don't leave, or you don't leave room for options for failure. And is that what you live by, to say that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like the thing about me is that I always want to win. I always want to succeed. Sometimes people accuse me of being over competitive because everything also I see as a competition lah. I see it as one thing to be. But the downside of it is that when you see things as that, right, when you want to succeed, there's a higher chance you will fail. And if you do fail, if you don't know how to deal with it, then you'll be very down lah. But like for me, I rather set that goal, and if I fail, then I don't see, like what you said in the quote, I don't see it as a failure. But maybe things just didn't work out, and if I have more time in this case or another opportunity, I'm going to do it, right? So that's something that drives me very powerfully lah. And I think if you come back to the very first question in this webcast, when I talk about being an underdog and understanding the underdog spirit, I think that is it lah. And I think in this case, in this pandemic, we can sit on our hands and we can be thinking like, oh, what next? Like this thing is so uncertain. I don't know what's going to happen. We can do that, or we can sit down right after this webcast and sit down and write down 10 ideas that I want to do because of this pandemic. After I finish this webcast, let me see what I can do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then tomorrow I will try and write a bit more. Just working and keep moving forward to that. So yeah, I mean, I use things like these because it drives me on, because I think there are a lot of really, when you are going out in there, like for example, as a business owner, there are a lot of intelligent business owners, a lot of business owners with a lot of resources. But I think most successful businesses or business owners or businessmen, for example, one key thing is their drive. Their drive and their unwavering belief that they can do it. Look at people like Jack Ma and all that. Like that unwavering belief that even in the worst of times, that if I keep to it, that success is gonna come. And that's something that I hold very closely to my heart, lah. Yeah, and I think one key thing is also just never believing that you are a success, lah. Let as the saying goes, right, let the success speak for itself. Like let people tell you that you are a success. And if they don't, then it's okay. Life carries on. But you don't need to. I think you see somebody trying to show that he's a success or whatsoever, then I don't think that's a good, accurate description of what I think success really is. Success is at the end of the day what you want it to be. And if you success, I think is not a destination; it's like a mindset. I feel, yeah.
True. And Azrul, moving on, but before you answer this question, what you want Azrul to be remembered for? I have something that since we are talking about sports, and as much as you came to the business or pivot to the business side of things, I also realized that you still have a big part of you still connecting to sports. You're actually a coach for a women's team, and recently you actually got an award. Maybe you want to talk about that?
Okay, I'll talk a little bit about that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been coaching since 2005. Yeah. So I'm also a accredited football coach. Wow. And I was lucky enough in 2019 to be awarded the Women's Premier League Coach of the Year award. That was in 2019. And yeah, I've done coaching maybe out of so what year? It's about the 15th year now that I'm doing coaching. And I've done it maybe 90 to 95% of that voluntarily, and for me, I think I have always and will always love sports and football, but I don't see coaching as a way, as something like a platform for me to win, to win people, to win games or get victories. I've never seen it as that. In fact, if you check my record at the senior level in Premier League and all that, I've never won. So, but what I consider the power of sport is in the ability of it to be a platform to transform people, to give them the necessary qualities or proficiencies that you will then be able to take to the other parts of life. Like I said, sport is very raw. Like it's right there in your face. But in sports, you learn how to lose, how to win, how to be disciplined, how to be committed, how to work with people, all things that you need in life and in business, for example. So I like I told you before, I coach because it's food for my soul, at the end of the day, all of us have a way to give back to the community. And for me, this is how I give back to the community. So I work with slightly underprivileged kids in terms of coaching them football, because that is something that I enjoy and I know that I can bring value to, and that is something that the kids enjoy. So when they are involved in football, that gives them less time or less energy to be involved in anything else untoward after that. So for me, it's just a platform. Obviously winning competitions is nice. I have won competitions in the past, but those were as a coach at junior college. But and I still do hope to win at the senior level, hopefully. But if that doesn't happen, it's okay. I want to be a coach who is remembered for in your question, for example. As a coach, I want to be remembered for being someone who has taught the players something in life, and like they became better. Their life got better because they played the sport, not because they won, but because they participated more of football and understood more about life through that sport. So that's why I want to be remembered, more of a mentor or more of a role model, more of a teacher than a sports coach, you could say.
And
But
I think
that's what coaching life. Yeah.
now the opportunity is it doesn't just play for you just to be remembered just in sports, but also in the business industry, because you are making a difference or impact on two industries at one time if you think about it. So I think that's really fantastic. And Azrul, really congratulations for the best coach award. Um,
Thank
it's
you.
really awesome. And you know, when we had a chat previously and you casually told me about this, I was thinking, you know, what's so casual about this? Is something that is really good. And that's the thing I love about you is, you know, you let success speak for itself. And all the way this never come up, and then I realized, you know, I got to ask you this question, you know, and really, you know, out there to congratulate you for what you have done, not for yourself, but for the team itself. I
Thank
think
you.
that's
Yep.
the key. It's for
Yep.
the team. Yeah, I think that's the key thing. And Azrul, any, you know, advice, word of advice for business owners, including our viewers who are, you know, still with us, you know, who are currently engaged in our chat.
Oh, well, I would say to everybody right now, I think that it's a very challenging time, for all businesses, not only your business alone, right? So I want to encourage everybody to, firstly, exercise um, patience and humility during this time, and secondly, really be willing to grow, to adapt and transform yourself, and also understand that, for example, SMCCI, our members, our partners, whether they are from the public or private sector, we are all here to help you. Okay, I think at the end of the day, especially for uh, those of y'all who are watching, let's say from Singapore, if you're watching from Indonesia or from Malaysia, like we are, we are all actually technically a team together. Although we are Team Singapore or Team Malaysia, but we are Team Southeast Asia. We are and have always been, and hopefully will continue to be one of the fastest growing regions in the world. But our greatest asset in this whole thing is our people, right? And I believe that as business owners, if we continue to be positive and continue to have a growth mindset and leverage on the available resources, right? I think we'll have a very big opportunity to move forward. Okay, I think all difficult things will pass. Okay, all difficult things, sooner or later it will pass, right? But in the meantime, now what are we doing to ensure that we are able to overcome this storm? I think that's important. But this storm will pass. I'm quite sure of it. That's my message
And
to everybody.
oh, and thank you so much, Azrul. I think it's a good 1 hour, or even in fact more than 1 hour plus of sharing. You know, not only about yourself, about your experience, but also a lot of initiative from SMCCI. I think it's been very informative, and I'm sure, you know, our viewers will be start thinking like what you say, to take out a piece of paper and start writing down what is my action plan. I mean, that's the best case scenario that can happen. But again, Azrul, thanks a lot for joining us today. And I had an awesome time, you know, having a chat with you, and you know, learning so much about your affiliation both in sports and in business. Thank you so much, Azrul, and we'll keep in touch, and we'll definitely meet up again.
All right. Thank you, Sakti. Thank you, everybody, for having me. Thanks.
All right. All right, and no live chat is complete without you. All right, especially for all the viewers. Thank you so much for spending your afternoon with me. Leave your comments and your feedback so we can do it better just for you. Now it's time to say goodbye. We had an awesome time talking to Azrul. And so remember, there are none before me and there will be none after me. Therefore, that makes me the one and only your truly Sakti. See you next week. In fact, we're going to have our next chat back on Thursday. So it's going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays. For this Thursday, we're going to have a professional actor, international actor. We are not calling him just because he's a celebrity, but we are calling him because as a professional actor, he can share a lot of his failures, his challenges, and his experiences as part of being a professional actor and an industry expert. So hope to see you all this Thursday at 2 p.m. at Bettery Hub channel. With that, see ya.